this shit for? What's this about? And he would kind of tell me these incredible stories. You got to remember, this is pre-Google. You couldn't just go hands, eyes, you know. No, this is like deep stuff. So one time I came across this campaign song that Woody had written for a guy named Stetson Kennedy. And I found this really interesting, something going on in this song, and I had to go and ask Harold about Stet. Now, Stetson Kennedy lived down in Florida. He was born around 1911, and Woody knew him because he had a kind of like a piece of land there that he used as an artistic retreat called Beluthahatchee. It's like some land that he and his father had reclaimed down there, and he had it open for artists to come on. Woody went there in the 40s and wrote him a campaign song for his 1950 run for the Senate against a guy named George Smathers, who was a red baiter. And Stet decided to run on an equal rights, equal pay ticket as a write-in candidate. And his entire staff for the campaign was a guy named Woodrow Wilson Guthrie, who came from Oklahoma, and the two of them together tried to get Stetson. Now, Stetson had an incredible history because in the 1930s he had infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan, became a recruiting, elevated to the level of a recruiter for the Ku Klux Klan, and was passing information on to the Georgia state authorities to help them to deal with the Klan. And also neo-Nazi groups in the 1930s, or they weren't really neo-Nazis, they were proper fucking Nazis. 1930s, sorry. Nazi groups, what am I saying? It's 1930. American Nazis, basically. Not you know, come around a second time just like dressing up. Real Hitler Nazis in Georgia. He also, they're called the Columbia Society, he infiltrated them as well. And wrote a couple of great books, Southern Exposure, another one called The Klan Unmasked. And in part, I've been wanting to play this song for a few days, for quite a while, because I had a bit of an encounter with Stetson in DC a couple of weeks ago. I went to the fabulous Museum of African American History and Culture, which just recently opened there. It's my first opportunity I'd had to go there. And I only managed to see the history section. I didn't have a huge amount of time because I had to go down to the mall to see the kids protesting against the climate, which is great. So impressive is that I no longer play Help Save the Youth of America. I now play Help Save the Middle-Aged People. But while I was in the museum, I came in the civil rights part of the museum, in a corner. Is a Klan robe, a red Klan robe, a blood red Klan robe. It's quite a shocking thing to just suddenly see in the corner there. The whole thing, hood, robe, velvet, Klan, everything. Shocking. And then I looked at the label, and it was Stetson Kennedy's Klan robe. And I thought, how fitting that if they have to have this thing in here, and they do, of course they do, that it should be the robe that was worn by an ally of the African American people in their struggle for equal rights and equal pay. So I was very pleased a few days later when I got a phone call from the Stetson Kennedy Foundation, who got in touch with me and wondered if they could pop down and have a word. So this is Dr. Kathy Jones from the Stetson Kennedy Foundation. She's going to pop out and say a couple of words. Kathy.
With him being here, so or just being here. No. I'm going to read this. So, thank you everybody for letting me walk down and around and be up here. It's my honor to present an award to Billy Bragg from the Stetson Kennedy Foundation. It's called the Fellow Man and Mother Earth Award. The mission of the foundation is to the preservation of traditional cultures, human and civil rights, and environmental kinship. Billy's work, as you know, touches on all three. What prompted us to give this award to Billy right now is the release of his book, 3 Dimensions of Freedom, and a CD that features a Florida song about climate change called King Tides and Sunny Day Floods, and I hope you look that up. Stetson, my stepfather, you can imagine how it was to grow up with a man like that. It was awesome. He was a crusader for human rights and civil rights and environmental causes. He had crosses burned on his lawn. He had dogs killed by the Klan, just to mention a few. He'd be here tonight with you instead of me, but he passed away in 2011. But, you know, I think he's here along with Woody. He and Billy were kindred spirits whose views connected in much the same way that Stetson and Woody's views did half a century before meeting Billy. And Stetson admired Billy greatly. He was impressed by the depth of Billy's political and social commitment and his articulate communication of all of this. Billy, Stetson, and Woody, fighting with words and song, bold, uncompromising. Billy, it is my honor to present you with the Fellow Man and Mother Earth Award on behalf of the Stetson Kennedy Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy, and the Stetson Kennedy Foundation.